Okay, Numbers 18, 19 through 20. The flesh will be yours, as the way breast and the right shoulder are yours. So God left them a certain part for them to eat. These are for the priest, I believe, to eat. Um, so He left a certain part for them. You know, when we give our all to God, He leaves us something for. He requires us to give to Him. The Old Testament mentions a tenth, but New Testament talks about how we're not to leave nothing our own. We're to give Him everything, and it's shown by giving Him a tenth. But He leaves us what we need. When we're fully dedicated to Him, He gives us what we need. He allows us what is best for giving us for our relationship with Him. He ain't going to allow us to have something that keeps us from building our relationship with Him, something that distracts us from that. Because if we have that, eventually He'll take that away. They were given the shoulder and the breast. This was what they were to live on. They were to. The Levites didn't inherit land. We see how they inherited the Lord. They inherited service to Him. So the Lord allowed these offerings for them to provide for them food because they didn't have land to grow like the other tribes did. So they lived off the offerings. When people were dedicated to the Lord and were willing to serve the Lord, it was kind of, the Levites were kind of based off what they got, whether people served the Lord or not. If people weren't bringing any offerings, then the Levites just didn't have anything. All the offerings of the holy things which the children of Israel offer to the Lord, I have given to you and to your sons and your daughters with you as an eternal statute. It is a covenant of salt forever because before the Lord, and to you and your seed with you. So they were given the offerings. It was to stand. Eventually this system would be corrupted. We see how the priests are kind of corrupted in the New Testament where Jesus fusses at them because they're exchanging money in a way that they weren't supposed to. Whether they were actually Levites could be argued at that time too because of the exile, and they possibly may have not been because of that. They may have just picked godly men or men that more aligned with the system of Rome may have been chosen for during that time. As Christians, it mentions how we're all part of the priesthood through Christ. It ain't a birthright thing. It's through us receiving Him. We're all able to serve Him. We don't have to go to a select few people who work for the Lord. We're all to serve the Lord. Now, we see in the Old Testament how the Levites did everything. The worship was led by the Levites. Anything was led by the Levites. But when the message was brought, when the word, not all the prophets were Levites. In fact, most of them weren't, if any of them were. So we see how God, and it is an exemption of God using other people. It's just the Levites, this is what they were to do. They weren't to work the land. They were to serve the Lord. Verse 20. The Lord said to Aaron, you will not have an inheritance in their land, nor will you have any territory among them. I am your territory and your inheritance among the people, among the children of Israel. So they inherited the service of the Lord. There came a point in time where the problem was people weren't bringing offerings. So at one point, I think it's in Nehemiah it's dealt with, where the Levites are actually working the land rather than working in the tabernacle. Fact is, this wasn't something they were supposed to do. By them actually doing this, regardless of what they needed, it was them not trusting the Lord to bring the people to them. It was a distrust to the Lord. Whether the people were being obedient or not, the Lord would have provided for them if they stayed doing their duties. Oftentimes the Lord calls us for a certain purpose, and because of whatever, we neglect that for other things we see, and an excuse comes up. You know, when the Lord wants us to focus on what He's called us to do, we're to focus on what He's called us to do. These other things are just distractions oftentimes. We, unlike the Levites, ain't just called to the purpose of God. Everybody today works. So, but it's through our work we're still to stand witness for Him. We're a Christian at work. We're a Christian wherever we go. And we're to show service to Him above whoever we work for.